Yes. For the veins or the arteries to actually have color. Veins that you see under your skin may look blue or green, but that involves the veins. And the reason for this would make a great physics topic. Human blood has blood functions. It maintains a pH, temperature, osmotic pressure. All of this is very important. It transports things like hormones, nutrients, and it's made up of different components. One component includes plasma, water, protein, salts, lipids. You'll find this liquid portion of blood known as plasma. Another component includes cellular lipids. This means red blood cells, which do the white blood cells, which fight infections, and platelets, which are actually cellular fragments, and they're involved in the blood. Very important when there is damage to the body. Red blood cells have iron-containing protein, and that is where red blood comes from. So when we're talking about blood, and we're just enjoying circulatory system, we're going to focus on how this blood moves around in the human body. Human heart anatomy observes blood divided into two distinct and separate partitions. The deoxygenated and the deoxygenated partition. There are some common congenital heart conditions that oxygenated and deoxygenated. More on that yet. Arteries carry blood legally. Think A for arteries are typically oxygen rich, but there are exceptions. Veins generally carry blood to them. Veins typically are oxygen poor, but there are exceptions. Capillaries are small blood vessels, and it is at the capillary level where oxygen is delivered to organs and tissues and where carbon dioxide is picked up to travel back to the lungs. So looking at this heart, the right side, and that's the person's right, so we'll do it on the opposite, pumps deoxygenated blood, and the left side pumps oxygenated blood. We can also see four chambers, the right atrium, the right ventricle, and the left atrium, and the left ventricle. I like to remember that A goes before B in the alphabet, so that helps you remember that A is for atrium, or the top of the heart, B for ventricles, or the bottom of the heart. Atria also have thicker walls than the thicker wall ventricles. The heart also contains valves, which we'll see when we get to tracing the pathway of blood. The valves are one-way structures that help separate the chambers, and also prevent backflow. Ready to take the adventure of a lifetime? An adventure tracing the pathway of blood through the heart? We're going to start with blood is in human heart. This blood is deoxygenated. It needs to get to the heart so that it can be pumped to the lungs, pick up the oxygen, and then be spread throughout the body. It's going to be rare for the communicating. Inferior communicating is specific, and the superior communicating is a blood. The blood enters the right atrium. The right atrium contracts, pushing the blood through the trachea into the right ventricle. The right ventricle contracts, pumping the blood through the pulmonary artery to the pulmonary artery. By the way, when you see the word pulmonary, it likely involves lungs. The pulmonary artery takes blood to the lungs. The lungs are where red blood cells in the blood will take on oxygen and release carbon dioxide. Now this blood is oxygenated. It needs to return to the heart so that the heart can pump it throughout the body. The oxygenated blood travels through a pulmonary vein to the left atrium. The left atrium contracts, and the blood travels through the mitral valve, also known as the bicuspid valve, into the left ventricle. The left ventricle contracts and pumps the blood through the aortic valve and out a major artery known as the aorta. The aorta is a major artery that carries oxygenated blood throughout the body. Now, I don't want to neglect the fact that the heart needs its own blood supply for delivery of oxygen to the lungs. The heart can receive this blood supply through coronary arteries. Coronary arteries branch off the vein and eventually to the
coronary artery.
These capillaries
coronary artery ऐसी artery होती है heart में blood supply करती है, ठीक है?
The blood will eventually travel in pathway. In fact, quiz yourself. Can you pause the video and trace the pathway of blood again, starting with the right atrium? Okay, all together. Right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle, pulmonary valve, pulmonary artery, lungs, back through the pulmonary vein, left atrium, in order. Takes it to the body, and then it will eventually return the maybe back to the right aging again. It almost makes you want to turn it into a song, but we won't. The significance of the pathways, how they interact, the coordination of contraction, and many more elements are part of every beat of your heart. A human heart beats over 100,000 times per day, so it's significant that every beat is coordinated and well is directed where it should go. The complexity of the cardiac cycle, which is a coordinated sequence of the heart's contractions and relaxations, isn't something this short video will do. Hopefully a separate video will see. One last thing. There are many conditions in which the heart doesn't function correctly. Anatomically, some heart conditions change the pathway flow of the heart. One example that we have mentioned before is an atrial septum defect. The septum is the muscular wall that separates the right and left
सेप्टम होता है, ठीक है?
the septum
तो फिर ब्लड इधर से उधर चले जाते हैं उनके रास्ते से।
oxygen-rich blood emits from oxygen poor blood. Depending on the size, this can cause further problems such as an abnormal heartbeat, stroke, or potentially heart failure.
यही सेप्टम जब खराब होता है,
Some
वॉल पर
patients
आएगा।
develop the symptoms, or surgery can be an option. There continues to be more advancements for treating cardiovascular conditions. If you have interest in an amazing field of cardiology, take a look at the suggested further reading books and video materials. Well, that's it for the news source. I'm going to stay
पार्ट्स खबर कर गए respiratory system का रह गया ना respiratory system में जो पार्ट्स आपके लिए सब पता है बस प्रैक्टिकल में
This festive season, get the Kama glow with Kumkumadi. Kamai Veda. From the palace to your home.
What if I told you you can erase negative thoughts, overthinking and childhood trauma permanently from your life by rewriting the day? Yes, it is possible. And I'm your sugar.
This animation illustrates the human respiratory system in an unprecedented way. Let's do this fantastic journey together. Not only oxygen, which is important for us, is part of the air we breathe. Water also enters our respiratory system, as well as other gases like krypton. Or even radioactive radon.
ऑक्सीजन के है ना जो ऐसे दिखा रहा है
In addition, small and large particles are part of the air and shouldn't enter our lower respiratory tract. For this reason, the upper airways provide certain protective mechanisms. Large dirt particles or insects are stopped in the nasal cavity by our nasal hair.
हॉस्पिटल में
Small particles are trapped by the nasal mucosa. Ciliated cells are located on the nasal mucosa. These cilia move in a
और
wave-like
हमारे मतलब
This allows the cilia to push the nasal mucus produced by the goblet cells towards the pharynx. Consequently, small particles that have been caught by the nasal mucus are swallowed. This process into the esophagus.
टंग है अंदर का आप दिखा रहे हैं ठीक है एसोफेगस ये एसोफेगस है
The trachea, right below the larynx, is
ये
surrounded by
लाइन
a
स्ट्रक्चर
complete
बनाए
hyaline
ये कार्टिलेज का बना होता है ठीक है
Near the heart, the trachea branches into two main bronchi. The main bronchi lead to the left and right lungs. The left lung has only two lungs, upper and
ये
lower,
इसके दो क्या है दो
whereas the right lung has three lungs.
इसमें तीन होते हैं दूसरा अपर लोअर मिडल यस तीन
The
होते हैं
centrally located heart pumps deoxygenated blood to the lungs through the pulmonary arteries. Oxygenated blood returns to the heart through the pulmonary veins and eventually to all organs.
ऐसे हार्ट से कनेक्ट होता है
The main bronchi form the trunks for the bronchial tree. Like the branches of a tree, the tubular system of the lung starts into finer and finer branches. The right lung has 3 lobes with 10 lung segments. Each lung segment receives its own air and blood supply.
कैसे रहते हैं क्लियर नहीं है ना
At the ends of the bronchial tree are tiny air sacs called alveoli. It is estimated that humans have 300 to 400 million alveoli. Large branches with cartilage
अच्छा है
thin branches at the end of the bronchial tree are called bronchioles. Instead of cartilage,
ये छोटे-छोटे जो दिख रहे हैं ये
alveoli are
एल्वेओल है
surrounded by elastic fibers
ये क्या है
and muscle.
ब्रोंकियोल है
The exchange of gases occurs with the help of the alveoli.
ये छोटे-छोटे एल्वेओल्स है एक एल्वेओल स्ट्रक्चर वाला दिखाएगा
Individual alveoli are found on the walls of the bronchiole respiratory. Several alveoli are glued together at the end of the bronchiole respiratory to form an alveolum, or sac,
यही पे
which is
डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन
supplied by
प्रोसेस है
one alveolar duct.
जो का एक्सचेंज होता है ठीक
Alveoli
है
are approximately 50 micrometers in size. They enlarge considerably during inhalation. Alveoli are largely composed of thin cells called type 1 pneumocytes. These cells are extremely thin, allowing oxygen and carbon dioxide to diffuse. Air with the required oxygen enters the alveoli via the alveolar duct. This is where gas exchange begins.
ऐसे गैस आती है उसमें
All alveoli are covered with a network of thin blood vessels. Deoxygenated blood
ऐसे ब्लड
must be enriched
ब्लड
with
के अपने
oxygen
लगी रहती
and
है
at the same
ये
time
इन्फेक्शन
release unneeded carbon dioxide into the alveoli. This is done with the help of red blood cells that erythrocytes. The erythrocytes move through the blood vessels and take up the oxygen, which is shown here. Iron, Fe, in these blood cells is responsible for binding the oxygen. An iron ion can bind to one oxygen molecule so that the oxygen can be transported.
ये हीमोग्लोबिन जो है इसका स्ट्रक्चर है मतलब उसमें आयरन हीमोग्लोबिन क्या होता है
At the same time, the carbon dioxide in the bloodstream and emitted by red blood cells diffuses into the alveoli. This is made possible by diffusion. In the alveoli, we see a lot of oxygen, whereas in the blood vessels, there is a lot of carbon dioxide. This difference in concentration is eventually balanced by diffusion. This is how the differences in concentration are
ऐसी गैस
equalized.
और ऑक्सीजन फ्लूइड में ऐसे एक्सचेंज होता है।
Let's now look at how air, and therefore oxygen, is transported into our lungs. Our body has various muscles that inflate and deflate the lungs. The muscles of the neck are responsible for fixing and raising the sternum, upper ribs, and certain muscles between the ribs raise and lower all the other ribs. However, the most important muscle in respiration is not found in the neck or chest area,
कोस्टल का
even in
किनारा,
the abdomen.
कोस्टल के ये बोलते हैं ना समुद्र का किनारा, किनारे की साइड साइड।
Is responsible for most of the breathing. First, let's take a closer look at chest, ear, the neck, and rib
हाँ, अच्छा
muscles.
हम क्या करते हैं?
Due to their arrangement and
प्रोवाइड
contraction of the rib muscles, the ribs rotate outward. This causes an increase in volume, particularly in the lower regions. That is, the hollow ribs.
फिर उसके लंग्स के नीचे, यहाँ होता है, यहाँ, स्टार्टिंग में यहाँ होता है, यहाँ।
The rib movement can be imagined similar to the handle of a bucket. The handle is shown here in red.
और जब आपको सांस
Therefore, it is called
लेते
bucket
हैं,
handle
ब्रीदिंग
motion.
करते हैं, वैसे कार्टिलेज को इतने से मूव करती है, तो फ्लेक्सिबल रहती है, वैसे रिजिड रहती है ना।
The increase in chest volume occurs not only laterally, but also sagittally. The sternum rotates as well, as seen here. This is called pump handle motion, because the movement of the sternum can be thought of as the motion of a pump handle. Thus, one can easily visualize the increase and decrease in the volume of the lungs. When the lungs inflate, a negative pressure is created in the lungs, and we breathe in. When the lungs deflate, positive pressure is created, and air is forced out of our lungs. We breathe out.
सांस लोगे, सीना फूलता है, और छोड़ोगे तो कुछ नहीं होगा, है ना?
Inhalation, exhalation, inhalation, exhalation. Here we can see the inhalation and exhalation process from below. As noted earlier, in addition to chest breathing, we can use diaphragmatic breathing. It can be performed separately or in cooperation with chest breathing. Diaphragmatic breathing is the natural way of breathing at rest. During diaphragmatic breathing, the diaphragm rises and lowers. When it rises, we exhale. When it lowers, we breathe in. In order for the lungs to inflate and deflate, the body has a pleura. The pleura serves as a lube outside of the lungs to allow for up and down motions against the chest wall. For this reason, the inner pleura covers the lungs. The outer pleura lines the rib cage and diaphragm. This allows the inner pleura to shift against the outer pleura. Between these two layers is the pleural cavity, shown here in yellow.
हमें सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम और वो क्या कहते हैं सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम एंट्री और रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम।
यस
ठीक है, सर्कुलेटरी हो गया और रेस्पिरेटरी हो गया, सारे पार्ट जनरली एक पूछेंगे इसमें, ठीक है। वो मैं बैठने वाला दोनों पैटर्न और ज़्यादा इसमें जो पार्ट्स थे वो मैंने बता दिया है, जनरली एक पूछा जाएगा, ठीक है। अभी हो गया पैटर्न,
रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम बचा है सर, डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम बचा है, सिस्टम
रेस्पिरेटरी और डाइजेस्टिव
यस सर, सिस्टम्स में और भी एनाटॉमी
एनाटॉमी,
एनाटॉमी अलग है ना सर, एनाटॉमी और फिजियोलॉजी अलग है।
वो तो एनाटॉमी बता दिया मैंने, अभी तो एनाटॉमी पढ़ रहे हो।
यस सर
फिजियोलॉजी मैंने लोगों को ब्लड फ्लो के बारे में बताया है, वाइटल कैपेसिटी बताऊंगा, ठीक है। टेम्परेचर मेजर करने के लिए बताई तो कई बोले, ब्लड प्रेशर भी पल्स बताई दिया मैंने, ठीक। तो हमारा इसमें ये हो गया डाइजेस्टिव और एक्सेल ये हो जाएगा फिर इसको, ठीक है।